And it all began one fateful afternoon as I stood outside Ms. Adele's vocal class, trying to sneak a peek inside. That classroom felt like an entirely different world, a realm where melodies soared, so beautiful they made me forget reality for a moment. But then, the illusion shattered as my mother, Mrs. Taylor, appeared, pushing her signature cleaning cart. My mother is mute, but she didn't need words. Her stern gaze and wildly waving hands were enough to yell, "Jane, get back here right now!" I pretended not to see her. Well, not really. I just wanted a few more seconds to admire that world I never dared to step into. But my mother wasn't one to be fooled. She came closer, parked her cart right beside me, and shot me a glare sharp enough to cut glass. At that very moment, the classroom door swung open. Adele stepped out. Yes, the Adele, the woman I worshipped, the greatest idol of my life. She was stunningly perfect, from her regal stride to her haughty gaze. My heart nearly leapt out of my chest, and without realizing it, my hand instinctively pulled a small notebook from my bag. I stepped forward, trembling with anticipation, and handed the notebook to her, stammering a request for her autograph. But then, Adele glanced at me, just once. She picked up the notebook, held it for a moment, and let it fall to the ground as though I were nothing. No words, no smile. Before I could fully process the humiliation, her gaze shifted to my mother. My mother stood there, frozen. Then, out of nowhere, she shoved her cleaning cart aside, stormed forward, and pushed Adele to the ground. Yes, my mother, the silent, kind, and endlessly enduring woman, had just shoved my lifelong idol. The air seemed to freeze. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Adele lay on the floor, her face a mixture of shock and indignation, while my mother turned on her heel and walked away, as if nothing had happened. I stood there staring after her, my mind a chaotic whirl of emotions. When we got home, I was furious with my mother, but instead of saying anything, she quietly handed me an old notebook. Her gaze, firm and unyielding, seemed to say, "Read it." I opened the notebook, and each page felt like a storm sweeping through my mind. My mother, this silent, humble woman, had once been a talented singer, a star in her own right. Taylor was a kind-hearted and gentle girl, while Adele was the daughter of a powerful senator. Both of them competed against each other in the National Music Artists Championship finals. Adele overheard her parents discussing that if she couldn't win the championship, they would transfer all the entertainment company shares to her younger brother. Taylor was also present and heard the conversation, but she paid no attention and simply walked to the dressing room to practice her singing. Terrified, Adele rushed into the dressing room and saw Taylor confidently standing before the mirror, singing with a powerful voice. Overcome by a storm of rage and fear, Adele approached Taylor, struck her, and then used a sharp ink pen to stab deeply into Taylor's throat, causing her to bleed profusely before collapsing unconscious. As a result, because Taylor did not participate in the competition, Adele won the championship. A day after the cleaning staff had finished, they discovered Taylor in the dressing room, her throat severely damaged. Jane quickly closed the notebook and hugged her mother. I asked her why she didn't report it to the police, and my mother cried, writing on a piece of paper that a congressman had hired someone to threaten her. If she went to the police, she would face an even worse fate. After learning the truth, I was filled with anger and regret for blaming my mother. Therefore, I made a firm decision to earn a scholarship and transfer to the same class as Amy. I wanted to defeat her once and for all. I wanted to take back the trophy that Adele had stolen from my mother. In the first few days after transferring to the class, Amy knew that my singing voice threatened her. One time, when I stayed after class to sing, she and a group of her friends bullied and assaulted me. They threw cooking oil and batter into my face in the bathroom and forced me to transfer schools. Although it was difficult, I didn't give up. And then Adele finally made her move. She hired a group of thugs to force me into a car and take me to a music center. At first, she offered me $2 million to study abroad with the condition that I would change schools and not participate in the competition. When the deal failed, Adele began to threaten me. She said that she wouldn't let me touch the trophy, and that more than half of the judges were her subordinates and colleagues. I wouldn't have any chance at all. I just scoffed and told her that Ami was exactly like her mother, both cowardly and inferior. She slapped me across the face, and just then, my mother arrived. She pushed Adele down and took me home. Yes, my mother worked as a janitor at the school, but she had only been there for a week, having met Amy a few times, but never spoken to her. Before the performance, Amy ran up to my mother and asked her to go to the vending machine and buy a bottle of orange juice because she was feeling dizzy. My mother, being honest and kind, went and got her the bottle of orange juice. Amy had secretly put drugs into the bottle of orange juice and drank it. She staged a scene to frame us, knowing that she would always be the loser. She cleverly orchestrated this drama to make my mother and me despised by everyone. Jane picked up the trophy and said, "This trophy rightfully belongs to me. Ami is nothing but a fake failure." Below, the reporters began to panic, and reporter Peter stepped forward to ask a question. Amy, frustrated, grabbed the trophy and hit Jane. They started fighting, and the other reporters joined in, snapping photos and reporting. Peter and David stood off to the side and began broadcasting live. Peter suggested that Amy might have staged the scene and framed Jane. A person who constantly wins is driven by their greatest fear, failure. Peter believed Jane was a kind-hearted girl with no status, and she couldn't have done such a thing. David, on the other hand, believed that someone with nothing to lose was the one with the most powerful weapon. Because Amy had grown up with everything, she had become arrogant and naive, which made her vulnerable to being manipulated by Taylor. Peter shook his head, looked into the camera, and asked the audience, "Who is the real liar?"